it's Jen from Fabulous Paper Emporium and welcome to my channel. Today we go through the rest of our baby boy album using the Little One collection by Photoplay. Stay tuned and we'll go through the entire process. Okay, so I inadvertently erased some of the video that I had created while creating this album. So I am going to do my best right now to go through each element with sizes. You're just not going to see the construction. So I apologize profusely for that. Not sure what happened, but it is what it is. So I think the best thing for me to do, because I have bits and pieces, is, and I know that I have the part where I made the outside bits, like the outside cover. And so I'm going to leave that part for right now. So that will come a little bit later. This little flip element at the front. So I have two pieces of chipboard underneath. You can see that it is somewhat raised off the album cover. I didn't want to use foam tape because I don't feel foam tape offers enough security. And so, and I didn't want it super high off the cover. So to create this little flip element, it's held together with magnets, so it's not flipping and flopping all over the place. We have two pieces of black cardstock. One piece is going to measure 6.5 by 5, and we've scored that at 1/2 inch. And the other piece is just going to be 6.5 by 4.5. And that is put together just like any flip element that you would have. I've got the turquoise. So I've got 3 pieces of turquoise, one on the bottom, one on the top, one over here. And all of these elements are 1/8 of an inch smaller. So we're going to have 6 3/8 by 4 3/8 times 3. And then on the front, we obviously have our cut apart, which is 6 by 4. And just something that I think I mentioned later on, but I'm not sure if it's one of the videos that got deleted. All of the elements in this collection, because it's really like a unisex kind of situation, anything that has reference to a boy, on the other side, it'll be a girl. So you do have the option to go either way with your creation. So it does make it very versatile. And so that is what I did for the front cover. We have our waterfall element at the front, and that's duplicated at the back. So we have our decorative paper that I have going all the way around, and the decorative paper is measuring 7 by 7. And the reason why I wanted to have a full page is because you do see the pattern paper underneath it. So I did want it to look very, have a nice flow to it. So all of these waterfall pages, so you've got 4 at the front, you're going to have 4 at the back. So that's a total of 8 pieces. And all of these are cut at 6.5 by 5, scored at 1/2 inch with the 6.5 inch side at the, with the 5 inch side at the top. You're going to score at 1/2 inch. And then we have our colored pieces, and those will be the same. So 8 pieces of these colored pieces that measure, I want to say it was 6.25 by 4.25. And I did end up putting a white piece on the inside, which is cut at 6.25 by 4.25. So up to you if you want to do that. I just felt like now it lends itself to pictures and or journaling. So you're not tied into just putting pictures there if you want. I did also put these little strips on each one of the little tabs, and these measure 6 1/4 by 3/8 of an inch, because that is a 1/2 inch tab. The 3/8 of an inch will give you a little bit of a border around that. So that is the waterfall elements. To actually install the waterfall is pretty simple. So I start from the top and I work my way down. Before I start, I try to make sure that I'm leaving myself roughly, I obviously eyeball it. There's a little bit less room at the top than there is at the bottom, but specifically on either side, I try to make sure that there's the same amount of space. So with the folded edge down, you're just simply going to apply your first one. Now, applying your first one, you want to be extra careful. We're taking into account the left and the right to make sure that it is as square as possible, because your other pages, you're wanting to line those up as you install them. And how I do that is, if you've seen me install a lot of other things, is I take a bit of the adhesive backing off and I just kind of peel it back. And this way I can kind of set it in one of the corners and fold this piece down to make sure that we have a nice alignment on the left and the right. So this way it's not moving around too much, but if I also don't have it in the right place, I can take it up and reinstall it. So that's how that works. I feel so badly that I don't have the process for this. So we have our pocket flips. So on all of the pocket flips, we have the front and back cover color in the same colored cardstock as we do the signature, as well as the pocket insert. So the pieces for here, you're going to need 12 of them. We're going to cut this at 3 3/4 by 6 1/4. And so that gets applied to both sides. And these tags, man, these tags, the black base is cut at 3 1/8 by 4 7/8. And so that gives us enough room for our 3x4 cut apart. We also have a 3x4 white piece of cardstock. So there's 18 cut aparts, there's 18 white pieces. And then at the top, we have a piece that is 3 inches wide by 3/4 of an inch high. And you're going to need 36 of those because we've got them on the front and back. So how I did these is really quite simple. I know it looks like there's a lot of cutting and mitering and all the rest of that. So I'm just looking around at kind of what I have in here. So I'm just going to show you a really quick kind of hack. So I've never done this before. I did this for these cards because I really wanted it to be super simple. So I'm just going to ask you to imagine, if you will. So I'm going to just use my scissors. Okay, so I didn't cut that very well. All right, so let me just, okay. So let's say we have our tag base. We've got our cut apart laid down. We have our top. So I'm going to apply this like I would and leave a border around the 3 sides that I see. Okay, so I'm going to apply my top. Okay, so I'm applying it like that. So I've got a nice little border around 3 sides. How I go about, I had a template for myself. And the template that I had for myself, I just basically took the, you know, a piece of black cardstock that was 3 1/8 by 4 7/8. I cut, I marked myself 5/8 of an inch because for that size, I wanted it to be 5/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5/8 of an inch in. And then as well, it was 5/8 of an inch down. And that for me left a really nice size. Not sure if I'm going to be able to see that. There we go. So I just kind of made a tick mark on both sides, on both the top and the bottom. It may look super large because this is, you know, a smaller piece. So I'd cut off that part. And now, of course, it doesn't leave me with that nice border that I had before. But for that, I just kind of took an extra ruler that I have that is obviously not my good ruler. I take a Sharpie and I go across, and that created the nice border that I wanted. And I did that for all the edges, all the sides, and it came together so quick, so easy. And as you can see, really, you're not going to really notice. I doubt very much. To also make sure, I did run a bit of Sharpie at the, across here to make sure that all sides were kind of covered in the black marker. So that is how I accomplished my tags. We then have our pages, our flip pages. So for these, we have the colored cardstock that is 6 1/4. Yeah, 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. And then our pattern paper is 6 by 6. So for the colored cardstock pieces, you are going to need 36 of the pieces because we've got 1, 2, 3, and then on the opposite side we also have 1, 2, 3. So I did 2 sets of the turquoise, 2 sets of purple, 2 sets of green, and that's kind of how I chose to lay it out. You certainly don't have to do that. I did do these cute little ribbon pulls at the bottom as well. So those are just 2 inches of ribbon. And then I come along with a little bit of score tape, fold my ribbon in half, and then I measured across. I made a little mark where it was the halfway point. And then I measured from the bottom up. I put a little tick where it was 1/4 of an inch because I was putting them under the pattern paper. I wanted it obviously a little bit higher. You can definitely put it underneath the colored cardstock if you want a little bit of extra security. So once I had my measurements, I put some score tape, a little line of score tape this way so that I attached my little ribbon loop. And then once my ribbon loop was placed down, I put another piece of score tape going across. So that's how I installed those. The next element, and I have those just on the fronts and the back. So in total, there's 12 of those as well. The inserts, the page inserts, pocket inserts that I did. So the total measurement of the black base is 6 1/2 by 6 1/4. So 6 1/2 by 6 1/4. And the nice thing about having the outside be bigger than your signatures by about an inch, it does allow your tabs to be nicely inside, so they don't exceed the width of your book. So you don't actually see the tabs from the outside. It's only when you open the album. And so to create these, I have done this but once before, but I've taken my little envelope punch board, and I'm not sure how big this piece is, but I'm hoping, okay, it's 6.5 by 6.5. So I'll show you on this one. So what I do is I line it up on my punch board. I have a little arrow here and a little plastic part that sticks out. So I am lining up my left side of my cardstock. So my 6.5 is this way. Sorry, my 6.5 is this way because I want this to be the outside edge. 6.5 going this way. I'm measuring my left side with this arrow, and I'm going to punch. Okay, that gives me my first little punch. Then I'm going to move the left side over to where it says 3.5, and I'm going to punch again. And so to remove what I have, that excess that I have, I'm just going to line it up on my grid here. I take a metal ruler. I prefer metal because otherwise I'm pretty sure my plastic ruler would have had gouges out of it. And then I'm just going to come along and just, I have ever so slight pressure applied. I've got my craft knife right up against my metal ruler. That comes away with a few swipes. I'm not trying to get rid of it in one fell swoop. I just want it to look as neat and tidy as I can possibly make it. And that's how I get my tabs. I did the very same thing, very same process for the colored piece. And the colored piece is going to measure 6 3/8 by 6 1/8. So 6 3/8 by 6 1/8. So the only difference for this, I line up my colored cardstock exactly in the same spot where I did before. So right where that arrow is, I punch. And then I move the left side over to 3 3/8 and I punch again. And I do the exact same thing. I trim off either side and I have my pocket insert with my tab. And this works. I've got the top tabs and the bottom tabs. Obviously, they're done the exact same way. You just have to flip it over when you're installing it. So I'm going to set this stuff aside since we've done that. Okay, so the pocket insert fits in nicely. Whoops, I have to get it in the pocket first. There we go. Whoops, that was supposed to be at the top. There we go. So I've got my pocket insert. I have, of the designer paper, before I forget to mention that, the designer paper, I have 24 pieces. I left the tops of all of the inside flips blank, and this way it allows journaling, it allows pictures, it's multifunctional, so you can put whatever you want there. I did also, just to go back one, is I used stickers that I layered on some black cardstock, and I just put one of the stickers on each one of the pocket flips. So just depending on what the shape was, I just fussy cut around the sticker. The nice thing with this is every single signature is done the same way. So I've got a little rainbow there. Of course I have the hiccups now, of course. So some really cute stickers in here. I put some stickers on the tabs. The stickers are just part of the collection kit. So with this particular album, because we will have like 2 sides to every one of the pocket inserts, you could, if you wanted to, have like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, because you would have enough to get all the way to 12. So that could be the baby's first year if you wanted to. I have done an album like that. So, but I just chose to kind of go with the, some of the little tags, not tags, some of the little stickers that they had with cute little sayings. So, that is how that's done. The back cover is done exactly the same as the front cover, with a nice little waterfall with my white pieces on the back side. And so I'm going to cut now to show you how I created this, and which is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to incorporate, because there wasn't just one color, I did want to incorporate all the colors on the front. I did the same thing on the spine. This again is a sticker backed on cardstock, and I just put some 2 brads to make it look a little bit more, I don't know, like it was part of the album. And then obviously did the same cardstock on the back. So I'll cut to that right now, and I'll be right back. Okay, so one of the things that I've decided to do is to replicate the pattern that I did for the front on the spine and on the back cover, and that way there's some continuity with the outside cover. So I've already done the spine, and I wanted to go through kind of how I worked it out. So I'm going to do the back, and for the back I've cut myself some strips. So all of the strips are 7.5 inches long, so they're just a little bit longer than what I actually need, and this way if everything is not perfectly lined up, I can trim it. That's not a problem. And so, excuse me, I've got my purple strip, my 2 turquoise, and my 2 green. And so the measurements for these, because my entire piece is going to be 7 3/8 inches by 7 3/8 inches. So it doesn't end up working to be completely, you know, because then we get into 16ths and all kinds of very small fractions. So I rounded everything kind of up, especially the 2 turquoise, because they're going to be on the outside. And if I've got to trim off a little bit after it's all assembled, if one turquoise piece is like a 32nd or a 16th larger, I don't think anybody is going to really notice. So for this, the purple strip is 1.5 inches wide. The 2 green are 1 inch wide, and the 2 turquoise are 2 inches wide. So this is how I'm going to put it together. I'm going to shift them and turn them a little bit. If you have a mat that's got any kind of grid on it, it's certainly going to help. And what I would do then is take my Post-it tape, so something that is not going to, you know, be permanent. And this way we can line up everything. We want to get everything close, close, close. So this way we can go ahead and apply our tape as we go down. I'm only applying one right now, but certainly it's going to require more once we go to lift it and turn it. Actually, we don't even really need to lift it and turn it. We can just apply our double-sided tape kind of as we go. So I'm going to continue, and I can already see I'm kind of headed off, and this isn't quite. It's already kind of going off in a direction. So I see my purple's not quite where I want it to be. So definitely 2 pieces of tape to get everything kind of square and keep it square, especially at the beginning. So I think washi tape would work if you have some washi tape. Just make sure it's not super sticky, because that may be a little bit challenging to get that peeled off. So if you just kind of have it, sometimes I just kind of stick it to my pants and then remove some of that stickiness that's on it. And then I'm going to put just one more here. So I can take this one off, stick it there for right now. And then I'm just going to flip it over. Be very careful. Flip it over. And so I've got the same pattern here. And now I take my double-sided tape and run a straight line across where the 2 different colors intersect, or patterns if you're wanting to use patterns. That would have been a very cool idea for sure, is to include, if you had any offcuts of your designer paper, you could have certainly included that in the stripes, maybe instead of the green. Oh, it looks like I took off some of the green there. And once this is done, I'm going to leave the tape on the other side. I'm going to leave that on until my piece is actually adhered to the album. And this way, this just adds a little bit more stability, because once you peel these off, it's going to still want to bend and fold. So it's just better if you leave not the double-sided tape, but the temporary tape. So, whoops, before I bring that in, I know I'm going to have to do a bit of trimming, because like I said, I cut those a little bit longer than what I needed. So I'm going to cut a little bit off the top and a little bit off the bottom, so I have nice crisp edges. So like I said, this is going to be 7 3/8. And then from the side, I'm just going to measure that really quickly. So I am in a lot of ways eyeballing it. Whoopsie. Give me 1 second. And then spin that around. And get that at 7 3/8. Okay. So now I have a piece that's 7 3/8 by 7 3/8. And you see there's not a lot of waste, which is great. But I know for some of the other ones, I used kind of what I had at my at an arm's reach, just from offcuts from having cut the pieces on the inside. So in doing so, I had various lengths and things like that. So when I was creating the front panel, I had all kinds of different lengths. So if that's what you have kind of left over, then by all means, don't worry about it. You don't have to stress. So long as everything is longer than what you need, you're good to go. Okay, so I'm just going to grab my liquid glue and get this. I especially want the perimeter to be well adhered. I'm going to go down each of the lines of double-sided tape that I've adhered, just in case I place it and I need to make any adjustments. And then I'm just going to bring that in. Whoops. Don't let it go. So once usually once I see the border on 3 sides, it usually means that, or at least 2 sides, it usually means that it's good to go. So now I am okay peeling back my double-sided tape, or not my double-sided tape, the temporary tape. And I usually just keep these. I kind of have like a caddy on my desk, and I have a bunch of little pieces already stuck there. They're great for die cuts if you want to keep your die cut in place. And that's basically how that's accomplished. So now we have our completed album using the Little One paper collection by Photoplay. And just to note that this is easily converted, for lack of a better word, to a girl album, because on the opposite side of the one that's the tags that say it's a boy or that are boy related, on the other side there's a girl saying, or theme. There's girl stickers and all the rest of that. So very easily converted with some change of color. You're good to go. So and if you don't know what it is, you could always potentially, because you do get two of each of the decorative papers, you could always have some tags that are ready to go with the girl, some tags that are ready to go for a boy. And if it's kind of like a secret type of thing. But anyways, I digress. So hopefully you have enjoyed this tutorial. I really appreciate you spending the time with me, spending the time watching my tutorials. And if you've liked it, please give me a big thumbs up. If you have any questions, feedback, comments, the comment box below, I read and respond to absolutely everyone. So please feel free to leave me something, especially if there's any way that I can improve my tutorials to you. I do try to take those to heart and to at least make some considerations to making improvements. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing and becoming one of our fabulous friends. I would really, really appreciate that. So thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you are inspired and you have a fabulous rest of your day, and stay safe and well. I'll see you next time. Bye.